Hey guys, this is Justin with Rocky Mountain ATV MC, and today I'm going to show you how to use the Tusk Crank Puller and Installer tool. Alright, so if you're going to be splitting the cases on your motorcycle or ATV for any reason, you're going to need a crank puller installer tool. And the reason why this tool is so important is because typically your crank fits into the crank main bearings extremely tight. It's a really tight fit. And if you try to force the crank in from this side rather than pulling it through, you're going to mess up the alignment of the two crank halves. So, you know, I've seen guys force cases together and end up seizing the rod up or throwing the crank way out of whack. So it's really important that you're grabbing the side of the crank you're installing into the case and pulling it into the case rather than forcing it from the opposite side. And that's what this tool does. All right, so the Tusk Crank pulling tool is going to come with several different parts. You're going to have your main housing, the body of the tool. You're going to have the puller that's threaded, and then you're going to have different adapters that actually hook to the end of your crank. There's male and female M10 and M12 by 125 thread pitch adapters. We also sell separately a C-clip adapter. So if you have a KX or a model that has a C-clip on the end of the crank instead of a nut or bolt, you would want to get that as well. Real quick, I want to talk about this main collet. This is the piece that hooks, or that holds the adapters that hook to your crank. And like I said before, ours comes with a 10 and 12 millimeter male and female adapters. Now you can use other sizes too. If your crank has an 8 millimeter bolt in the end, or a 6 millimeter, if it's a little tiny bike, you can use this as well. You just have to get your bolt, your 8 or 6 millimeter bolt with the washer, put it in, and it's still going to hook to your crank. So the tool is going to work for most motorcycle and ATV applications. The tool also includes these two flat steel rods, and I'll show you how to use those in just a minute. So to demonstrate how this tool works, I'm going to be installing this Hot Rods crank, brand new, in a YZ250. Okay, so on this particular crank, I can actually pull the crank from both sides. The tool is going to work on both sides. Male adapter on this side, female adapter on this side. Now, on some cranks, you're only going to be able to pull it from one side, meaning that tool's not going to work on the other side. If that's the case, you want to refer to the instructions with the tool for the heat freeze method. Basically, you're going to heat the cases and bearing and freeze the crank, drop it into place, put the transmission together, and then pull the other side together. On this side, it doesn't matter which side I do first, so I'm going to start with this side of the case half. Always refer to your service manual for instructions on this procedure. You want to make sure you get your tolerances, torque settings, and all that stuff right. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to get a little bit of grease, put it on the crank where it's going into the main bearing, and I'm going to put some grease in the main bearing itself. Put the crank in as far as I can, and it's going to stop because it is a very tight fit. So this is where I need the tool. With the crank in, I'm going to grab the main collet, set it on the crank, grab my bolt, put it inside the collet and tighten it as far as I can. Now the tool is hooked to the crank. I can install the threaded part here. I thread that onto the collet, and then this is where, now I can put the main housing on, and I want to show you something real quick. Now this tool is going to hit on this bearing here, and it's not sitting flush against the case, so that's a problem. There's a couple things I can do. I can take off this flange and put it on, and that's gonna, fit right up against the bearing. But what I like to do is use the two steel rods that came with the tool, and this is how they're used. Let me get this back on. You put the two steel rods on top of the case half where you have a nice flat surface. And now you'll be able to pull on the crank straight, which is really important. So we can go ahead and put the nut on the end. Make sure my rods are lined up and straight. And then all I need to do is tighten this nut with a 26mm wrench to pull the crank into the case half. Make sure your rod is up where it needs to be. All right, it's about in. I'll give it one more turn and I can feel it stop, so I know I'm in all the way. Then I just back this nut off, get these rods out of the way. And I can disassemble the tool. And there you go. The crank is installed nice into this case half. So now I can assemble the transmission, get the surfaces of the cases ready to go, and then install the left half of this case. All right, so I've got the transmission in place. I've got both case halves with the liquid gasket on, so I'm ready to put this together. I've already went ahead and put grease on the bearing and grease on the crank. So I'm just going to set this case half on and try to line it up the best that I can. Once we're in place, I can hook on the crank puller. And on this side, I have plenty of room, so I'm not going to need the steel bars on this side. I could if I wanted to, but the tool's going to fit in there nicely, so I don't need to. So I've got my collet. I'll put on the adapter, thread that on. The puller. And go ahead and put the body on. And just like the other side, we'll go ahead and tighten this nut. Now when you're pulling this together, you want to make sure that the case is going on evenly. If you start getting crooked, you need to straighten out that case. And I like to kind of wiggle things around, make sure everything's falling into place. This is sliding on nice. It's going on even. Sometimes the bearing on the counter shaft will hang up, so you want to watch that. And just like that, it's on. I'll give it a, make sure it's on all the way. But it's that easy. If you use the tool, you're not going to put any stress on the crank. So it's going to go in perfectly. I've seen guys put the cases together, put the bolts in, try to tighten it together, and it just squishes the crank, messes up the rod, and then you're going to have real engine problems. So that tool makes it really nice. Pull everything off. I'll be able to put my seals in, and this engine will be ready to go. So that's how you use the Tusk Puller installer tool. Really easy to use and a must-have if you're going to split your case. Keep in mind that we have the case splitter tool and other specialty tools on our website as well. Be sure and check those out. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for more how-tos, bike builds, and product spotlights. Thanks for watching.